A big concern right now for a lot of folks is potential food shortages. They think back to like 2020 when you'd wander into Walmart and the shelves would be totally wiped out. And while I'm not saying that something like that won't ever happen again, that's probably not how our current situation is going to play out, at least not at first. What worries me right now is the stuff going on behind the scenes that people don't really notice until it's already happened. Things like you're at the grocery store and you see that ground beef is now $10 a pound, or canned vegetables that used to be 70 cents now being at like $1.50. And there's a lot of things going on in different parts of the world that are causing that sort of pressure. So today we're going to talk about what's causing all of this mess, which foods are most likely to get hit first, and what I would be doing right now before any of this gets worse. Now, before we get started, if you're new here, my name's JR, and this channel is all about practical, budget-friendly preparedness for regular folks like you and me. So go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button so that you don't miss what's coming up. Now, most people don't realize that problems at the grocery store don't start at the actual store or even its corporate office. They start at farms, shipping lanes, and when the processes involved in growing that food becomes a lot more expensive. And all that becomes a whole lot worse when you have several things happening at the same time, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now. First up, there's the cost of fertilizer, and this is a much bigger deal than most folks realize. The American Farm Bureau just released a survey showing that roughly 7 out of 10 U.S. farmers are saying that fertilizer is now so expensive that they can't afford to buy all that they need for this growing season. And southern farmers are getting hit harder than others. Nearly 80% down here can't afford full application rates. So why is fertilizer so expensive right now? Well, it should surprise absolutely no one that the conflict in the Middle East has a lot to do with it. Around a third of the world's fertilizer supply goes through the Strait of Hormuz. That, of course, is the body of water that's been under one blockade or another pretty much since the war in Iran started. Then on top of that, China, who's another major fertilizer exporter, has restricted its exports to protect its own domestic supply. So you've got less coming through the Strait of Hormuz and less coming out of China at the same time. And when farmers can't afford fertilizer, then they really don't have a whole lot of options. They'll either apply less of it or plant fewer acres. So either way, we're probably going to have lower crop yields later this year. And that's just how farming works. Things that are happening right now, they're going to take a few months before they start to affect grocery prices. So even if by some miracle the situation in Iran gets resolved relatively soon, we're still probably going to be paying for it later on, either in the form of higher prices, a little less on the shelves, or some weird combination of the two. Then after that, we have fuel and transportation costs, because when diesel prices go up, everything costs more. That includes running farm equipment, moving produce to distribution centers, and keeping refrigerated freight cold. And those costs are going to get absorbed into pretty much everything that we buy. And a big reason for this, once again, is the war in Iran. Energy markets and fertilizer costs are very closely linked, so it isn't uncommon to see similar price fluctuations in both at the same time. Then after that, we have some environmental conditions working against us as well. NOAA's spring weather outlook shows that droughts are expected to either continue or get worse across large parts of the West and the plains. As of early April, over 80% of the southern plains are already in drought conditions. Even here in like eastern Texas, I've been a little bit surprised with how little rain that we've gotten. While we have gotten some, I don't feel like it's as much as what we would normally have by this time of year. And when you combine droughts, fertilizer costs, and higher diesel prices all together, both farmers and end users like us are going to be getting hit from pretty much every direction all at once. Then there's also financial stress. The USDA projects that corn, soybeans, and wheat are all priced below what farmers need to break even this year. And when farmers start losing money, they'll start changing how they do business. They may plant less or use less fertilizer, like what we talked about a minute ago, or they could stop growing certain crops altogether. And if that happens, that's when shortages could get more noticeable. But when you look at all this mess as a whole, it can give you a pretty good idea of the specific foods that are most likely to be affected first, and that can be helpful for us when it comes to planning ahead. So, getting into specific food items, first off, we have coffee. Even though it isn't a staple in the sense that you need it to survive, it does have a lot working against it right now. Like, it's imported, weather sensitive, and it's already been under price pressure for a couple of years now. And since a lot of folks use it every day, it's an item that they tend to regret not stocking up on when they start seeing higher prices at the grocery store. A big reason why we're seeing higher prices right now is that Brazil, which produces around 30 to 40% of the global coffee supply, got hit by a severe drought. And coffee trees that die from a drought can take up to 5 years to replace. So that means that one really bad year can mess up stuff for a while. Now, thankfully though, prices have gone down a little bit, and there's actually some expectation of a larger global surplus for the 26-27 season. So we may actually be in a window to stock up before a new weather event or some supply disruption messes things up again. And you want to take advantage of that because based on what we've seen before, coffee prices can spike fast and stay up for a while. So go ahead, keep a reasonable stash of ground coffee or whole beans that you can rotate through, along with some instant coffee and Mylar as a long-term backup. And kind of along those same lines, if you're somebody who drinks tea, then getting a buffer supply of that may not be a bad idea either. After that, we have cooking oils, things like vegetable oil, olive oil, shortening, and ghee if you use it. Oils are tied to just about every pressure point that we talked about earlier. Fertilizer costs affect oilseed crops like soybeans, fuel costs make processing and moving it more expensive, and oils are calorie dense and used in almost every meal. So when prices go up, you feel it pretty fast. This is also one of those categories where most folks don't have nearly as much on hand as they think they do. Oils also have a shorter shelf life than most other prepper foods, so be sure to store what you have somewhere cool and dark, and also stay on top of rotating it. Next up is beef, and I don't think that this is going to surprise anybody who's been to the grocery store lately because it's already gotten pretty stinking expensive, and unfortunately, it's probably not going to get any better. The USDA is projecting that beef prices could jump as much as 10% this year, and that's before they've even fully accounted for what's going on with fuel and fertilizer. The big reason for all this is that the U.S. cattle herd's been shrinking since 2019, but demand hasn't really changed, and that's just how basic supply and demand works. Now, obviously, fresh beef isn't a great option for long-term storage. Even if you have like a top-of-the-line backup power system, your freezer could still go out at the worst possible time. But canned beef, canned chili, beef stew, and freeze-dried beef, if you can afford it, are all worth picking up. This is also a pretty good time to build up your supply of other meats too, like canned chicken and tuna. Those give you the protein that you need at a slightly lower cost than beef. After that, there's vegetables, and for this, we're going to focus on shelf-stable canned varieties since that's what we'd be using for our stockpile. And this one's definitely worth paying attention to since vegetables are one of the more fragile parts of the supply chain. They're perishable, at least until they're preserved, and they're also weather sensitive, so really there's a whole lot that can go wrong with them. Recent reporting shows that farm-level fresh vegetable prices in February were around 48% higher than what they were this time last year, and with drought covering large portions of the major growing regions, that pressure isn't going to be going away. So when it comes to stockpiling, I'd focus on canned peas, beans, potatoes, and anything else that you use regularly. Also pick up other things like canned pasta sauce and rotel, since they're just basically a bunch of vegetables in a can that you don't have to go through the trouble of mixing yourself. Then potato flakes and other instant potatoes are also good options since they're versatile and they store really well. Then along those same lines, we have fruit. Like vegetables, they're weather sensitive, geographically concentrated, and they're heavily dependent on transport. Florida orange production is a good example of this. It's been running well below long-term historical averages for several years now. And most people didn't really notice all that until they realized how expensive juice had gotten. I know that was kind of me. So I'd go ahead and look at canned peaches, pears, pineapple, and fruit cocktail. They're really good snacks, and they're also useful for morale, especially if you have like younger kids or grandkids. Next up, we have dried beans and lentils, and these are actually doing okay right now, but they're always worth stockpiling since they're some of the best substitutes for meat when it gets too expensive or just harder to find. And if beef prices keep going up the way that they're expected to, a lot of families are going to start leaning harder on plant-based proteins, and when that happens, demand for beans is going to go up. So we'd be a lot better off stocking up now at current prices than trying to wait until demand goes up. Pinto beans, black beans, lentils, split peas, and chickpeas all store really well. They're really some of the cheapest calories that you can buy, and they can be used in a whole lot of different ways. Then after that, we have rice, which is also doing pretty good at the moment, but it's always worth picking up since it's more affordable than almost any other food item, and it stretches out the rest of your stockpile. Of course, white, jasmine, and basmati rice store the longest, so if you're mainly focused on building up your long-term stockpile, then those are the ones that you want to pick up. Brown rice, even though it's better from a nutrition standpoint, it doesn't store nearly as long. But one of my favorite ways to store grains is dry pasta. They last almost as long as dry beans and rice, and they're also a great way to store grains for anybody in your family with gluten sensitivities. And then oats are another good option as well. But one more thing that's worth mentioning is sugar and sweets. Prices for those are projected to go up around like 6 or 7% this year, which is above the 20-year average. And even though these aren't really what most people would consider survival essentials, they're very useful for morale and changing things up a little bit. So I think that they're still worth having around. But when you look at all this together, the big threat isn't really everything disappearing overnight. Instead, we're seeing risks to foods that are imported, vulnerable to weather conditions, or just cost a little more to produce. Things like coffee, cooking oil, beef, and canned fruit. And I know that a lot of folks watching this are probably on a tight budget and can't go out and buy everything on this list all at once. So here's how I would prioritize things if money was limited. Start with the basics. If you don't have a good supply of beans and rice yet, then take care of that because it'll get you the farthest for the least amount of money. You can also throw some pasta in there too. Then after that, get yourself some canned goods, things like vegetables, fruits, and meals in a can like soup and chili. Also pick up some cooking oil since it's calorie dense and it's used in almost everything. And then finally, pick up some canned meat. It can get a little pricey, especially if you're buying beef, but if you eat meat regularly, it's something that you're going to want to have. And y'all probably noticed that this order is different from the list that I just went through, and that's kind of on purpose. The first list tells you what to watch, and then this one tells you how to prioritize when dollars are limited. Both are useful just for different reasons. Then beyond that, don't go out and panic buy. Pick up things that you actually eat because there's really no sense in stockpiling a ton of food that nobody in your family's ever going to touch. And really, that's part of the reason why we're preppers. We go ahead and get what we need before everything totally falls apart so that we don't have to deal with all the craziness in the store when everybody else is losing their mind, and also so that we can leave stuff for somebody else. Because if we have plenty of food, then there's no need to go out and wipe out Walmart when a bunch of other people don't. And also rotate what you buy. Do first in, first out so that nothing sits in the back of the cabinet until it expires. And all this is really just basic prepper stuff. Just keep doing what you know to do and don't let all the junk in the news totally freak you out. Now, if you're a new prepper and aren't sure where to start with all this, then be sure to check out the first $1,000 a new prepper should spend by clicking here. Or if you want to see how to put together a pocket survival kit that you can actually depend on and isn't filled with just a bunch of junk that's going to break, then click here. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.